Can we start again? Sorry.
Good morning. Hello, my name is Andrea Petochi. I'm Managing Director at Liberty.
Hi, I'm Polly Mason and I'm Head of Design for our fashion fabric collections at Liberty.
My name's Dunkley. I'm Design Director at Liberty, and this is my life in design. So I grew up in Norfolk. I had a real mix of cultural inspirations. My mother's Jamaican, my father's Liverpudlian, so the colours were a mixture of that natural environment and the sort of Caribbean influence. My mother was a lawyer, my father was a doctor, so when I said I wanted to go to art school, wasn't the best reaction, wasn't the most natural ambition that they had for me. So I really had to prove to them and constantly kind of explain to them where I was going, why I wanted to go there, and kind of convince them really. And as soon as I showed them the work I was doing and introduced them to that world, they were very, very quickly my biggest supporter. I studied in Nottingham, so the heart of textiles, you know, with its lace heritage and all the soulful music of that period. And I really was focusing my work on music and how I could translate the ideas from music into art and using textiles as a kind of medium really. So I was focused on my future being a textile artist. And I put on an exhibition when I graduated of huge abstract screen printed artworks. And I was invited from that exhibition to do a small project with Sir Paul Smith, who was based in Nottingham at the time. They had their design studio there. They invited me to come in for 8 weeks to do a project for t-shirts, and they felt my artwork would be relevant and interesting in the stories I was telling. So I went for 8 weeks to do a project. My first kind of introduction to fashion, and I stayed there for 18 years. So from Tokyo to Budapest to Palm Springs, we were looking for discovering inspirations and understanding fashion and art through the really practical side of designing fabrics for an international fashion brand. That's where I learned what British textiles heritage was. And part of that learning was learning about Liberty and its history of textiles. So when I got the opportunity to visit the Liberty archives, I took it, and from then on, as soon as I'd seen the archives here, it was a dream of mine to be part of this story.
I was lucky enough to be brought up in a home where my parents created a home full of design and art and colour. My mum's an artist and she was also a graphic designer with her own business in the 60s. And my dad's an amazing storyteller. And I think I was just brought up in a sort of a home life that was just very creative and very, that we were sort of challenged to push boundaries and to really sort of look outside the box a little bit. There was lots of change always happening at home. My mum was always changing the furniture, changing the decoration. After school, I went to Loughborough University and did a degree in textile design. And right from that point, from graduating, I started here at Liberty. Yeah, my whole career has actually been at Liberty.
My upbringing was a combination of someone who wanted to be a jeweler, because I was supposed to be the 6th generation of high jewelers from Rome. But then I ended up studying economics and ended up in being an expert somewhat of heritage companies. This is my job. The complexity or uselessness of my creative job is that I need to combine sustainable economic value within a method of human creation. And that's really what I think those two realities come together. We're all creatives, not just the artists, also the managers.
So at Liberty, I oversee lots of different categories. We've got a team of 30 artists, all incredibly talented, all recruited for their different, we call it handwriting style, so the way they draw and paint. So they're all, you know, very diverse in their styles and their expertise. So my day is looking at all those different teams, looking at the work they do, helping them edit really. And yeah, so my day can be either looking in the archive to find some initial ideas for a particular project, to meeting the creative director of a fashion brand who's coming to see what we can create for them. So it's a real balance of leading and managing and inspiring, but also listening and taking direction and trying to create for their specific needs and briefs. It's an incredibly passionate field. I think when you go into design and textiles, that it never ends. So there's always more possibilities. You can always carry on the journey. So it's about where do we stop and which direction do we take? And often it's about that kind of communication with my team that was most of my days spent.
So I think it is a super varied week whenever there's no actually atypical day at Liberty, and I think that's what's kept me interested for so long, to be honest. But generally, I guess you can find us in the design studio just off Regent Street behind the Tudor store, and it's a really bustling creative room. The team that create the fashion fabrics that I'm involved with, there's 5 of us, but we're a small part of a much wider team. And so there's a lot of creativity happening across the studio, which is really inspiring. I guess a typical day would be us gathering around the design table. We have a concept for every collection. The designers will go away and research, then we'll come back together and really I'll give design direction on what they've created, the drawings and the paintings that we've done. It might be that we're pulling together colour boards for the next season. Also things like storyboarding. We do a lot of filming assets and photo shoots to sell the collection on to our wholesale market. So I'm heavily involved in that side of it. Also liaising a bit with retail and some of the projects for LBTY and things like that. So it's quite varied. We're also doing a lot where we're working outside of the studio with external artists and people like that. So, or even students to doing college projects and things. So it's really exciting. There's constantly something new happening all the time in the studio. It's it keeps you on your toes, but it just certainly makes every day really different and really interesting. You never know what's going to happen when you walk into the studio in the morning, for sure.
Pinch me moments, I think, are, I've had the privilege of travelling all over the world, presenting in incredible spaces to brilliant audiences. The opportunity to travel and see these places and meet people who are genuinely, passionate about textiles. I think so often I speak to people who know more about a print design or, have such a connection with a fabric design that they have worn or they've had in their home, and they know more about the history of it than I do. So connecting to the customer and connecting to the community is a way that fabric has a really inspirational potential and way of meeting people. So I think that's been some of the special moments.
For myself, it's always keeping things relevant and new. Obviously, I've been doing it for many years, so it's always making sure that we continue to push boundaries and that we're creating newness. Arthur Liberty was a massive innovator or founder. It's a challenge. It's always a challenge to make sure we continue to push those boundaries whilst also staying commercial.
Challenges on a daily basis, really. Making sure that we have the freedom of expression and creativity, but they're always within the boundaries of commercial reality. So balancing that with the team and understanding that from a business perspective, and then trying to make sure that that doesn't leave, that it's the creativity and the vision of the designers, that they are the potential, they're the people that can reach the customers. So that achieving that balance is always going to be important. On a daily basis, working with designers, who might have spent hours creating a design, and then as a design manager, I have to make the hard decisions or give guidance and feedback. So that always is important to be sensitive and try and inspire them and try and help them understand why we've made those decisions.
I think when I started, it was at a really exciting moment in the late 90s when technology was just beginning in terms of things like the computer and different design software were just infiltrating into our practice. We were still doing a lot of things by hand. We were still painting, we were doing all our colourways by hand. So any colourway would probably take a day to do because you would hand paint every single colour of the design. And then gradually in those early years, the computer came in and we were using specific software for textiles. And it just enabled us to be much more experimental. And we were able to do, nowadays we produce upwards of 50 colourways per design to select down to the final 6. That gets sent to the factory. So we're just able to be much more daring and experimental with the colour choices that we make, for example. But equally, in the way we design something as well, it's really just uplifted that. So I think that is the biggest factor that's really, changed from when I first started. But it's very much, using it as a tool rather than the starting process still. I think it's really important to not lose your craft. So by that I mean your hands-on craft, whatever that may be, from weaving to drawing to designing to painting, to still retain that level of craftsmanship, but to really see things like AI as a method of using that to enable you to maybe speed up certain processes. We've done a bit of research, we're doing a bit of research at the moment with a group of colleges to really explore what AI will mean to the industry going forward, because obviously it's new and it's could be potentially quite frightening for new designers coming through, unsure how it's going to affect how they design and whether it's going to take away that level of creativity. Some of the feedback from the students was very much where it was really successful was when people were using it as a tool rather than letting it do the designing. And they were really taking it and using it as a process, almost like you would Photoshop really, or something like that in your practice. But as soon as you just give it the opportunity to do something from scratch, you don't end up with the best result. And I think even going forward as the technology develops, personally, I think that would still be the case. I think it always needs that human touch and human involvement. So my main thing would be to not be afraid of it, to embrace it and see it as a tool.
We are, small creatures on the shoulders of giants. I can think about a couple of simple things which really changed my life professionally. One was an advice from my dad when I was very young. And he said that religion and spirit and faith can change possibly your soul. But if you want to drive change in the world, you need to do something tangible. So that was a message of believe in the craft, but do it with the spirit. The second moment was with a very old master that we partnered with. He was 92-year-old, working with the design studio of Liberty, former number 2 of Balenciaga. And we were struggling with colors. We spent a lot of time on colors. And at some point he said, okay, we stop everything, go in the garden and come back in half an hour with every little reference you think you like or not. So looking at Mother Nature as the most incredible master in design has been at the essence of what we do at Liberty, and a massive learning for me.
My father always told me that you should believe in yourself, because if you don't, then why should anyone else? And I think that's really, really true for design. I think so many designers we meet, are insecure and sort of nervous about presenting their own work, nervous about saying how great something they've done, how great it is, and being confident with it. And of course there's a balance there, but I think fundamentally if you don't believe that what you've created is the best work that you can do, that confidence and that belief in what you've done is really valuable and really important.
I think one bit of advice is not to be afraid of making mistakes. And that's actually something that I always tell the designers whenever we're working, is that the best kind of innovation, the best kind of design comes from being really brave and really bold and doing something different and stepping outside of your comfort zone. And so I think that's a really important sort of mantra that I've lived my life by, certainly in the design world, is really always pushing boundaries. And if it goes wrong, it doesn't matter. There's always something that you learn from that, and it makes everything that you do from that moment richer. We work 2 years ahead of the season, but we really allow the designers the time to create and go through those different processes and to learn different techniques. And part of that is making mistakes. But then I think, as I said, we get a much richer set of designs at the end of it from that experience.
There's no save the planet without saving human nature, and vice versa. So I think what we try, at least at Liberty, to play with a lot, because we humanly design and we are inspired by art and nature, we must be sustainable for the planet in the way we work with each other. And of course, with the planet. I mean, this is an absolute global priority, galactic priority. If someone doesn't see that as a day-to-day, eating it for breakfast as a priority, there's something fundamentally wrong. People are starting to change their habits from within. A designer doesn't need to be a designer for 150 countries. He can be successful within his community, her community, and if there's value to be created, work with other communities. But there's not this megalomania of being everywhere all the time. That is happening, we just don't see. And that's going to be much more important than the backlash of profit creation.
I think design means to me just something that's been beautifully thought about and created, and something that helps elevate everybody's everyday life. And I think being able to work in that industry and to give that joy to people through something that's either beautifully designed or ergonomically designed that just makes life easier for someone, whatever design sort of area you're working in, I think just being able to make life either nicer or better or more interesting for people is the joy of design.
Because these days are hard, to me it means survival of the planet right now. But it doesn't need to be unjoyful. It doesn't need to be positive. But we need to take the measure of the emergency. And so right now design is about survival.
I think it's the ability to connect with your own story. So for me, it's about print and it's about colour, and so that really affects your everyday emotions and confidence and how you feel. So yeah, just kind of surrounding yourself with something that's been designed well is part of our experience, to the extent of something where it brings memories or a moment of your childhood can come back to you because you see that design, that fabric, that print. So good design in fabric is something that should last, and you can't throw away a Liberty print shirt, in my opinion. You can't give it away because it reminds you of a certain event or moment or something you want to hand down to your children. So good design should last and be enjoyed and take you on the journey.